asterisk there. Actually, no, they're not. That doesn't mean omissions. No stanzas were omitted. Really independent. I'm sorry. What do you think is the purpose of isolating these two last stanzas? Let's take a look. What does it say? Dili mahimo nga ikaw ikalimtan. Akong bathala sinimba sa tago. Kay kung wala ka sa sulod ning lughan, unsa pay ako, Inday, unsa pay ako. Silaw sa bulan, tipik sa bituon, nga napabilin ning yutang malaay. Kung dili buot kung dili buot ka nga dili simbahon, iuli sa langit ang imong panagway. These last two stanzas seem to serve as like a concluding portion. And the conclusion is, dili mahimo, no? Mahimo. The only way to do it is, pagkamatay, no. Iuli, it's figurative, no? That's literal, no? Iuli sa langit yung panagway, which is not possible, and so, impossibility of kalimtan. So, normally I go through all the process of really dissecting this using the notes I gave you, the guidelines I gave you. But like I said, since we lack time for doing that, I would rather we do these two poems. But that's a sample of how the structure, an application of how the structure and measure and the tendency to have the perfect structure during that time in terms of writing poetry. And so we go to Among Bandila. So, you find a page where you have Among Bandila by Tomas Baguio, Dalagang Pilipinhon by Vicente Padrica. Now, I have here, so like I said, normally in one session we go through the notes, katong 2-page I gave you earlier this morning. We go through and try to understand the terms. Of course, it doesn't happen overnight. Usually, sink in pa man nato, no? But since we're cramping the sessions into this particular morning, so I assume na imbibe na sa students ang kining guidelines. And then, what I do is I group the students. Usually, they find their own group. Students would like to work with people they like, no? So many people, so adults as well. And I assign a particular poem to each group, which they discuss. I would rather have a discussion na ginagmay-gagmay, grupo-grupo, make your own circles, no? And normally what I do is I hop from group to group. Try to check if they're on track. If they're on track, then no problem. So we imagine we're doing that. Your group, no? And then you're discussing either Among Bandila or Dalagang Pilipinhon. And then I ask them to identify in terms of form, measure, rhyme scheme. Simple like I know we do this in class. Stanza structure, poetic license, etc. That they identify through the poem. Now, since we're imagining that we're doing that, and saying you have groups na, no? What I'd like you to do is put yourself into a group. Are you in a group doing Among Bandila? Individually, you just choose, in other words, kung sa'yo gusto mo haton, or Dalagang Pilipinhon. I have here used sheets of paper, colored paper, and markers. Let's say you want to answer the kind of, okay, I know the rhyme scheme, so you please write it here. Say rhyme scheme of Among Bandila, and then we stick it on the white paper. Later on, we will discuss whether what you have identified is a correct rhyme scheme or figure of speech, etc. For imagery and symbolism, maybe you can pinpoint a particular line of the poem where you found that imagery or symbol. For poetic license, the kind, no, is it pagdugtong or is it inusa? and what line you find that particular poetic license. For measure, again, you can look at the rules or the guidelines. Same for form. Right? So, on your own, you do that. When you're ready, you can come and write your answer, and then we have some masking tape here where you can stick it on. Yes. Class. Those who have, we still have for form, like, is among bandila mayor or menor? Is the Legang Pilipino mayor or minor? You simply have to say mayor or minor and stick it on the area. I have heard many counting the syllables already and looking at the rhyme scheme. So I'm sure you have something there. Again, with the more markers here, and then you have the masking tape. Let me check on the youngsters. To the honors. So you would notice, although the Lagang Pilipino is arte versus arte de menor, it doesn't tell us na menor short form siya or long form. It's actually a longer poem as opposed to, or as compared to ang bandila, among bandila. So longer siya, but it's menor because in terms of number of syllables, hindi siya mayor. Thank you, ma'am. So in a way, when you do this exercise with your students, ipatakdan ta nila. They were very much concerned with form and structure. That's why when we're doing this, we have to be concerned with form and structure as well. Kita niya. Maybe you can add to figure of speech or symbolism. Or if you remember, I asked, when you're looking at the poem, you look at whether there's contrast or harmony. sa inyong organizing point. The youngsters are so happy because they look happy. See, we stick that one last color paper in. Kasi may mga answer. Yes, sir. Wala yung ana. Hindi parihara. So again, you can do this. What we did was, as a class, no, as one class, I made you choose whether this Among Bandila or Dalagang Pilipino, your choice. Again, with your classes, you can really assign a particular group to a particular poem. Sila mismo ang dissect. You give them the freedom and also the leeway. They will understand the guidelines and they will be able to identify, match the guideline with the application in the poem itself. As you are trying to discover now, no? I know this will not happen immediately in one instance. That's why normally, as I told you earlier, I would do the guidelines one meeting, let it sink in, and then in the next meeting, or maybe have it as an assignment, looking at the particular lines in the poem and seeing where all those guidelines apply. So you get the method? You get the method? Also, it depends, no? When you have the time, you can do reporting style. Let the group who dissected one point introduce the poem to the rest of the class. They can do it creatively. Ilami mag-give ng creative way of presentation. Or if not, then they can have it ready. Medyo, this one is a draft format for them. You can make them do this as a draft format and then let them do a clean copy for presentation for the next meeting. Of course, I'm expecting more things stuck in there, but we're pressed for time, so we will have to be content with this for now. Let's try to see. Let's try to see. And hapa, hey, guys, oh no, mom, 5 more minutes, mom. Sure, we have more masking tape here. Okay. So like I said, we have to be content with that for now. Again, you can come closer if you wish to see what has been written here. Okay. medyo basic form, basic method man ano. So again, among bandila. Let's take a look at among bandila. 2, 4, 6, 7 stanzas or 7 quatrains. So naaman niya quatrains siya. But 7 ang whole structure is you have 7 quatrains. One type of quatrain. Gamay kay siya, but you can just look at kinda how it is outlined there. This is the line count, the syllable count each line. Maklaro ba? Magpadoon, maklaro. It's only the 6th stanza, mamatawag kong giingon, note very well the 6th stanza. Because only the 6th stanza got verbo endecasillabo perfect. But I guess si Baguio was content with expanding some of the lines to 12 or even 14 syllables. Because, of course, dili naman niya trim down to 11, no? Without making it not make sense. So he has to make sense, of course. Alright. Yun pala. Okay. So, after all, you would say they were very engrossed with structure, but after all, matigbabog yun ang message, no, or making sense. Because if you cannot trim it out to the number you want, then don't force it. In the same way that we do our, we write home, you know. So you're right, it's arte mayor. No? Check. Like and check there. 11 to 14 syllables, but only, I mentioned it, 6 stanza that verbo endecasillabo. No one tried to answer rhyme scheme, but you're right, it's A-B. So, quarteto or quatrains. This poem is an example of what Villarino says or described as kaninga structure. 9 to 13 syllable lines. You choose either of the rhyme scheme there. Poetic license. These are some. By the way, I'd like to acknowledge, these are actually work of my English 91 or Cebuano students before. Ang inyong mga trabaho na no? Kaya silang tumagtampo sa klase sa una. Like, binulat in line 1. Like mahimayaong. You can look at your copies for that. Line 4, bilangguan, anaa, alaot, bituon. Here we have mahugaw, which is dinugtong, supposedly is mahugaw nga, ana, di ba? But dinugtong siya, which is acceptable man na siya, sir, no nga, ang mahugaw nga, but himuan siya mahugaw, it's acceptable man, sir, no nga, mahugaw na mali. Ang original is mahugaw nga, gidugtong niya ito mahugaw. So, sinalefa or pagdugtong. Check again, si no. Alright. Imagery, you have the description of the Philippine flag. Okay? It's an among bandila, ano? So, first baba sa kamatayon. Nakuha ba na? Agila, naa. Which also identified as hyperbole, bisan pa sa bakbak sa kamatayon. But come to think of it, this is something to do with, again, the Katipuneros at the time who were ready to shed their own blood. to sacrifice themselves. So, in a way, na siya literal ni application. Sila tuod naman naaman sa baba sa kamatayan when they revolted. And then, symbolism. Yung agila, referring to, the agila referring to, di ba, the eagle for America. So after all, si Baguio de Ay is anti-American. He wasn't just referring to the Katipuneros who revolted against the Spaniards, but the continuing, revolt. If his meaning was known, then he would actually be arrested for sedition. Okay, there was an anti-sedition law at the time, but because it's couched in metaphor and symbolism, get away with it, or I don't know, maybe he did not. And then, I was waiting for it, and I'm glad somebody mentioned, the whole poem is actually an apostrophe, which is a direct address to somebody. It's either somebody who's dead, but presumed not present, alive, or somebody who is not present, but the present absent, the absent present, or an inanimate object, pero addressing mo as if it's a person. Especially the last two stanzas. O among bandila, ginasimba, so i-address na dayon ang flag mismo. So of course the theme is, which is common at the time, the nationalistic theme, love for country, as practiced or as shown by the respect for. Now, in contrast, we take a look at Dalagang Pilipino. So, by the title itself, nag-assume mo nga, it's not bad to assume some things, but the title itself, nag-assume mo nga, this is about Dalagang Pilipino. No? Bayi ni, dili ni inanimate object like the flag. Okay. Kung pinabayi, then araw na. Sorry, ako na lang mas forward. You're right, it's arte menor. Check yapon. It doesn't mean arte menor, mubo siya. Like I said, Dalagang Pilipino is longer even. 8-syllable line is dominant, but again, you will notice it's not consistent. Nanong pugsol. It will just affect your message if you pugsol. It will not make sense. These are details which you can further explore later on. So I will move on to the next slide. This poem is what Villarino describes as the most difficult arte menor form, and Padriga did it. 6 stanzas composed of 10 lines, decima. Check again. Nakakita niya decima. Each decima can be divided into 2 groups of 5 lines per quintilia. So again, these are details that you can explore later on when you explore the notes, the guidelines. Right, the first 2 decima, or the first 2 stanzas, uses one central image, the Dalagang Pilipino. In the next 2 stanzas, there's a shift in the central image. The Dalagang Pilipino acquires the qualities of the Virgin Mary. Ulay nga maluluyon. Kita mo ana, no? The second shift in the central image occurs in the 5th stanza and is sustained in the last stanza. The focus in the last 2 stanzas is the image of the motherland. Inahan kong Pilipino. And so, Moni ang kalami sa Dalagang Pilipino. Nagsugod siya as if painting an image of a virtuous lady, woman, and then her virtues, of course, she becomes more virtuous as she is compared to the Virgin Mary, and eventually, after all, this is a praise again to the motherland or our country. So, theme again, nationalistic. and feminist too. The poem connects these three abstract images of the feminine. Abstract in a sense nga kanang the perfect girl, which is an ideal, no? And then Virgin Mary, and then the Mother God. Somebody got that as well. Check. Ako na lang na i-move forward. So the poem seemingly, the speaker seemingly is a suitor at the beginning, but in the end, this is actually a person who expresses his love for his country. Very quickly, I have to shift your mind to another method that I do. Another method that I use in order to make the poems more close to the heart of the reader. Are you familiar with the tulak? Yes, some said yes. Tulak is it actually started as street protest presentation. Very simple way of presenting a content, no? So it would need one narrator who would read the work. In this case, a poem. And depending sa kinahanglan, 3 to 5 performers who would act out what is being said or narrated according to the text. So let me introduce Con. You can find it among the poems in the notes, no? By Gardio Patraquingano. Okay, sige matag-istorya mga laki nga writer. I'd like you to take a look at Gardio Patraquingano. She was actually a dentist, but she wrote poetry. She's a member of a group of poets who write to each other. They would dedicate poems to each other, and most of their poems are transcendental. So they start with a very, very mundane thing, but their poems would transcend into higher realms. More than describing the poem, I would rather re-experience it. Normally what I do again is, by groups, assign a poem. And assign one day where the students can agree among themselves how to present it creatively in a dulak-dulak form. And so let me introduce you to our performers, the dulak-dulak. Let's go.
Stage.
Stage.
The rest of us, you can take a look at the what they call it, the text in your notes. Move the board. Ladies and gentlemen, Con. By Gardio Patraquingano.
Kung na ba ako'y mga pako, mulupad ako sa kahanginan. Nanawon ko ang nagbako. Akong ipayon, akong awitan. Pangitaon ko kinsay nagsubo. Iuli ko kanina, ang naingnan. Sama paunta ako sa isda, salungon ko ang dagat maito, pangitaon ko ang mga mutya, kuhaon ko ang tanang matahong, dadon ko sila dinhi sa yuta, aron ang tahanan magabahiyon. Kung ako pa mao ang tubig, tumagon ko kanang mga pangpang, ang kabugnaw ko akong idulhig, ug dugtaon ko ang mga bata. Patagon ko ang bungtod na hilig, aron mubanos ang bagong kahimtang. Kung ako maupa ang adlaw, dili ako patabon sa dagko. Ipabaha ko ang akong kasilaw, ihatag ko ang tanan katahong. Aron kamong tanan mga tagbaw, mag-awit, maglipay, magpahiyong. Ug kung ako maupa ang hangin, hadlaon ko ang mga bulak. Isabulak ko sa tanang daplin ang mga gihay nga nagabulak. Basin ang kahumot magpabilin, sundon ang bahi sa magbabalat.
I think that deserves a louder applause. Can you imagine? How many minutes did you do that over there? Like less than an hour, huh? So you have to trust the creativity of your students. In less than an hour, they can produce something like that. They're not burdened by props and costumes and backdrop, but themselves, your bodies as the visual aid. In one occasion where I did that con tula, I gave it to a group, and I sa member taga Zamboanga City. At plus sa time ito Zamboanga Siege. And kaning bitang part nga, pangitaon ko kinsay na subo iulit nila ang naingnan, no? They were actually reenacting like scenes imagined during the Zamboanga Siege. So you can use personal circumstance, personal experience of the students, and they can apply it and incorporate it in the presentation. In less than an hour, they can do that. I'm sure any group, they're not burdened with so much planning. It's content ang importante. One last thing I'd like to point out about Con, no? Here is a persona saying, if I were this, I would do this, correct? It's very consistent in all the stanzas. But is it possible a person can do all this? Be a bird, be water, be sun. Is it possible? Literally? Of course not. It's figuratively. What else? What other way do you think somebody can make this possible? Through? But what is the persona saying? What is her method? Or his method? They were giving human qualities to all those non-human elements in the poem. But of course, that's a figurative way of saying it. But what do you think is the method of the persona was? I guess it's something you remember. Yeah. Yeah. Right. How did you feel while watching them do that? Did you feel happy? Nabalik bang usa ka kalipay nga dugay nga nawala nimo? Alright, so I always appreciate this poem of Maripat Matejano because at the end she says, basin ang kahumot magpabilin, sundon ang bahi, ang line, no? Or set sa magbabalak. And that's a very positive and encouraging way, look at how literature, poetry, or literature by extension, do to us. The positive, all the positive things that we can get from reading, or writing, or seeing a performance, or performing. Yung video to, na ito yung performing. And so of course, it's important that we have sessions like this, performance. I think I will end there. I hope you got something from my presentation and from my we give room for questions, the method, or some of the points. We don't have time to do the fiction, no? But I think na may sample sa Camisas Rizal. So we open the floor for questions. Yes?
The notes you have given us, no, the title ng ba, it says classical poetry. No, I am thinking, can we also use this in contemporary poetry?
Of course, tomorrow na may contemporary poetry, no? But as a preview, contemporary poetry, it frees itself from all these guidelines. Now, you can try using the formal structure of classic Cebuano poetry and try to see where contemporary poetry diverts. So as a comparison, so you can try. But of course, one of the qualities or one of the characteristics of contemporary poetry is they do away with all those rules already. Form, you don't have those things. So you can use it as a way of comparing where it diverts or where it still follows. So yes, in a sense, you can use it as a vantage point for your analysis of contemporary poems. Yes, ma'am.
In the 21st century, I think a lot of people have been looking or reviewing America's presence here because they have denied or suppressed a lot of the information. So
They will not accept that we are a colony. They will not admit it.
No, and also we don't even deserve a mention in their history books. But we are,
Or, excuse me, Ma'am, or they still refer to us as PI, Philippine Islands,
right,
which is our name as a colony.
right. So it's really nice that we're looking at these poems right here because I think there's still a lot of scholarship to be done. Itambi nimo ang mga bagong research na nigawas karon. I think I've seen 2 books sa bookstores at Ateneo in Manila, and then compare it to, look and examine closely what the poems contain because dako pa kaayong gawas sa atong pagsabot bitaw. It really resonated with me, Ma'am. Thank you, kaayo.
Let me comment on that. Come next, Ma'am. You're right. Again, the intersection between history and literature, and we can, from the minds of the people who were living during that time of the colonization, American colonial period, we can probably get, again, you can get the struggle that they had in dealing with the new things that came with the colonization. And then, at 1-2 generations, nawala. Nakalimutan. But you know what happens when you have that kind of amnesia with our history. Some things are deep-seated na problema nga manggawas ang issues later on, no? For psychology na kayo. But you get what I mean. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. After examining the form and the structure, do you also go into post-colonial criticism or feminist criticism?
I started teaching this course to literature majors. But usually at the end of the semester, the is a paper, and they would use other lenses in trying to understand the sport. So yeah, you can. It depends now, no, on your kind of class. When you have a senior high, yeah, I think they can do it. You can't say that you have to do analysis or criticism using those lenses. So pwede sa.
Because we have always used it in senior high,
Yeah.
after this year. And also, I'm happy that I have copies of this one because I've always used like Arturo Tolentino during this time, and the allegorical plays.
Thank you, ma'am.
Are there mga Cebuano fictionists writing English work?
Australia, Alphon, Cecilia,
So we can
Bernard.
make use of their work also, no?
Yeah. Pero kanin sa fiction na kaning naman siya translation na katong inyong ipalit dito na anthologies on fiction, naman translation. So you can opt for studying the translation, no? Or you can go na Australia,
But
Alphon.
originally, their work is in Cebuano or in English?
Really, originally in English. And sila English, si Australia Alphon, and you have Cecilia Bernard, novelist. Australia Alphon is fictionist, a short story. So you can.
But not Carlos Bulusan.
But he's what's man? We're talking about Cebuano literature, magkama. And Cebuano literature, you have those two, mga babae na writers na.
And the writer said the Bisaya is better than the original. Yeah, I heard her say it.
You imagine. This is by original English. That's the right one. Maybe we remember tomorrow. We have room for one more. Yeah, Clyde. The other poems in the set kay mga kanang ka-works ni Gardo Patra Quijano, kana diha si Fernando Boiser, ka-works niya. You can try comparing the tone or sentiments of their poems. No? Again, we're pressed for time. Hindi na to siya ma-examine one by one. No? Or in comparison. Yes?
One of the most boring part of literature is the study of the elements. Ano na kanyang mga yunani?
So formal analysis. You're right.
This gives me an idea of what
Kay kaning agi ha, mamarog ang estudyante di magduga. You give them, okay, today's session you make noise, but ano ito ulit? You give them freedom ba kuno ha? You can make noise today. Ano ito ulit? Ay lang not too much it will disturb the neighbors. Tinahan kasi kanang mga colored papers, they work for kids for of all ages, from 3 to senior high kids.
What kaso din sa mga senior high or middle school. Kaya madarang na mong duwa-duwa. Ang kini mga tiguang na magpakabata, mga hindi tinahan. Narupok ingon. Ano may momento doon na siya? Hindi ba may gusto magbalak? Hindi mo nang magbabalak. IT student me, information technology me, hindi mo mag-suwat-suwat.
Kapila
Hindi ba?
Mga pinak, sir, it's an experience. I once taught also in Cebu Doctors University niya. Isil-sil good. Even our, sorry ha, walang chair. Mingo na mo, ay na nalisuda kayo, minor ba na itong subject sila. Sakit kayo ba mga murag? Kapag literature, it's not really important. Nako'y estudyante, mga medtech students, wala lecture. o human anatomy, kinagtuon kay next klase mo itunan, no? So yeah, it's a challenge to sell, no? But during that time when I was teaching medical students, to enter into the medical profession, so I told them, you're in the caring profession, sure that it's important, and you will have to pass. These are your, but in the caring profession,